I should say that again because now my camera just started. This is what it's all about. Steeper than all piss sand. Yep. So this ride was about 1 hour into what ended up being about a 5-hour ride. And I hadn't ridden my dirt bike for about 3 weeks. In fact, it was 3 weeks. I went on vacation with my wife and kids. And so I hadn't been on the bike for 3 weeks. And we've got another dirt bike trip coming up after this, which will be in just a couple of days from the time I'm recording this here in my house, where we're going to go riding for 4 days straight. And so just at the time before I went on kind of vacation, I was getting my dirt bike legs under me because I was riding like twice a week. A lot of people think I ride all the time. I don't ride all the time. I ride once or twice a week, but normally it's only about once right now. And if you can ride twice a week, you can really get some good stamina going. And I found that actually, the riding actually helps me more than doing cardio and other strength training things. The more I ride, the better off and the more my endurance is built up rather than just doing like a rowing machine or a skiing machine or even a stationary bike or anything like that. So tomorrow I'm going to try to go out and get onto another ride. So I've got 2 rides this weekend before next week when I go and I do, 4 straight days of pretty hardcore riding up in Idaho. But yeah, this is steeper than snot. I'll let this play here for a minute. Yeah, it's steeper. Oh man, even I make myself laugh. Steeper than all piss sand. That's the thing that came to my mind right then, as I'm like in this mortal peril here. Anyway, it is a steep trail, and this is a trail here in northern central Utah that doesn't get ridden a lot, and it's because it is stinking intense. The bottom of it is very rocky, the top parts of it are very steep, and so not very many people get out and ride it. And I had only ridden this trail once, and it was, 3 years ago? And so today, Tyler and I came out and we added on a little bit more to the original loop that I had done, and did some more, just some more rocky stuff, and we were on established trails, of course. But these are some trails that don't get ridden a lot because they're a little bit more technical and they're a little bit more intense. So it's not like the fast and flowing trails that we ride sometimes. And I love to do a little bit of variety. Something else that I wanted to mention, though, is you don't really get to see it in this part of the video because this is just kind of going down, just descending down kind of like a little bit of a technical and sometimes really steep trail. But the tire that I'm running right now, it's the Dunlop AT81EX. I've been running a bunch of different tires. I've been running the Shinko 505, the Shinko 525. Those are the cheater tires. I've been running the IRC VE33S, and I'm also running this Dunlop on different bikes. And the Dunlop, this is the 81EX. This is the gummy version of it. It is the softest compound of any of the ones that I've used so far, but it gets incredible traction. There was a couple of times, maybe 3 or 4 times on this ride, it's not in this part of the video, where I'm like kind of in a section with a bunch of rocks, rocky switchbacks and things, or a route or something, and I looked at it and I'm going, I'm going to get hung up on that route or that rock or whatever, and this is going to be a bear to get through. And then just somehow, and even though at the end of this ride the tire has 10 hours on it and it looks like it's getting pretty hammered, that rear tire, it is getting better hookup than probably any tire I've ever been on. So it doesn't last very long, but the performance is just incredible. I will do later on, it'll probably take me a few more weeks, but I'll do a full review of the Dunlop AT81EX where I'll show, hey, this is how many hours it has on it and this is how it looks. But the thing about it is, even though it looks like it's pretty hammered, it is getting more traction than any tire I've ever used before. So I'll stand by what I said before. If you've got like a big trip coming up where you're gonna spend a bunch of money and you're going out and you want the best performing tire possible, you might want to look at that thing because I've never seen a tire that got better traction than that AT81EX does. And Yeah, I'm going to put a fresh tire on this bike before we go to our trip up in central Idaho, just so I can get the very most out of it. But I might just throw that AT81EX on a spare tire that I'll take up there. I'm going to turn it around though, because the knobs are getting kind of worn off in one direction. I may just kind of spin it around and turn it the other direction on this bike or one of the other bikes, and just kind of burn the rubber off the other way, because it is absolutely phenomenal. Second to none as far as the type of hookup it gets here in the Rocky Mountains for enduro style riding. And again, nothing in this video that you're seeing right now is a good indicator of how well it did. Just know that it was freaking awesome.
Oh, that's a cool trail. This is the section I don't know.
Yeah, so would you want to go up that?
Yeah.
That would be, I think that'd be worse than what we came up. Because it's just as loose, but it's freaking steep straight up the thing. It doesn't really switch back.
Yeah. I say we do it, like,
Do it in the fall.
fall sometime, yeah.
I'll do it with a bike that has a fan on it because it's going to be boiling like crazy.
Yeah, with the type of trail that we were on prior to this video, and if you were to just go straight back up the trail we just did, it doesn't really matter what bike you have, you're going to need to have a radiator fan on it. The carbureted bikes, in my in my experience, run a little bit cooler than these TPI bikes because they get more fuel. You know, if you add more fuel into there, they will cool down. I know that because one of the other bikes has a GET ECU on it, and it's much richer than this bike, and it isn't heating up as quickly as this particular 2020 does. But regardless, whether you have a carbureted bike that is running super rich or not, you go up a trail like what we had just come down and you will be overheating the thing if you don't have a radiator fan. So historically, I haven't run radiator fans for a couple of reasons. Number one is I was like, you know what, if the bike is hot enough that it's boiling over, which only happens to me a few times a year, I'm probably ready for a breather. And then I'm cycling through enough bikes that it's another thing I have to move from one bike to the next, to the next, to the next. So I haven't done it. But there were times that I certainly wanted it. And now with the way that these TPI bikes run, I'm probably just going to have to bite the bullet. And it'll be another thing that I will buy and then just move over from bike to bike to bike, so that they don't overheat, because some of the trails that we go on, it gets pretty stinking hot because you're not putting enough air through the radiator because the speeds are low enough. Like if you're just like what we're seeing right now, the bike's never going to overheat, number one because it's downhill, and number two because there's enough air moving through. But when you're in first gear and you're just kind of paddling up hills and you've got no airflow going through the bike, it's going to get hot, and that's a problem, especially when the bikes don't get a lot of fuel. It's one of the reasons why the four-stroke bikes always overheat and you have to have a fan on them, is because they don't run a ton of fuel there, and there's just so much buildup, heat buildup inside of those motors. Very, very hot. You know, we saw some other guys later on this trail down here in a ways. They were both riding 500 four-strokes, and their bikes were just steaming. You know what I mean? So, and they weren't even in a difficult section of the trail. They were steaming on a much more gentle section, a gentle hill climb ascent part. So, anyway, radiator fans are going to be a must if you have certain types of riding conditions. And then again, it's freaking hot out here. It was 100 degrees in, you know, Provo area, Salt Lake City area today on this ride. So yeah, we're up a little bit higher, 9,000 feet, 9,500 feet. Probably here we're only at 8,500 feet. So it's cooler and it's early in the morning, but we're talking about hot ambient temperatures, and not a lot of air moving through the radiator. So those combinations, you're probably going to need a radiator fan, which I will be installing here shortly on this bike and maybe even the 250XC.